Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris here, and I'm bringing you my review of the new movie 65 starring Adam Driver. And this is one I've had my eye on for a little while, mostly because it's about dinosaurs, and we don't really get dinosaur movies all that often. We've got Jurassic Park and Jurassic World, obviously. But beyond that, and maybe, considering sort of the King Kong movies, those sorts of things, you don't really get a whole lot with dinosaurs. I'm a huge dinosaur fan. I've been a big dinosaur fan since I was a kid. Jurassic Park obviously kind of kicked that up to another level because I was, I think, 11 years old when that was released. One of my favorite movies of all time. So anyway, I was excited about this, even though I knew very little about the plot, and I'll talk about that momentarily. And I'll just say up front, spoilers here. If you're going to see the movie, if you're interested at all, go see it, then come back because I am going to drive into some plot points that are interesting decisions. And this is a sort of movie that, you just kind of have to go with, right? If you think about it too much and analyze too much about the story and what's happening, it starts to get really weird and kind of fall apart. So you just sort of go with it, you accept it for what it is, and on, sort of that merit, there's a lot of interesting stuff happening here. And it's one of the best dinosaur movies we've had in a long time. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a great movie in and of itself. It is very entertaining, but it does have a lot of faults with it, and I want to talk about those as well. Hey, as always, if you're enjoying the content, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Please take a moment to click that subscribe button. My goal this year is to try and work toward 1,000 subscribers. We're just about halfway there, making some progress, but if you're enjoying the content, please sure to follow, and I'll have more reviews coming soon. Okay, so let me try and summarize exactly what the plot of this movie is. So, it's set in the past, and as you might have sort of ascertained or guessed based on the title, it is in fact 65 million years in the past. So 65 is an abbreviation for 65 million years. And here's what's going on. So basically what this movie is saying is that human beings have evolved on other planets, like a lot of other planets. It starts out by telling us that civilizations have been exploring the stars for a long time, and there are humans on other planets. And so it starts out with Adam Driver's character who is married. He's got a daughter. His daughter is sick. You kind of assume that she's terminally ill based on what we see. But they start out on a different planet. And I think it's planet Solmeris or something like that. I could be mispronouncing it, but it's not Earth. It starts out there. It looks like Earth. It's got rocks in the background that are kind of curled, almost like waves due to erosion, one could assume. But anyway, he takes a job as an explorer. He has a job as an explorer, and he's taken a 2-year mission to go haul some human cargo to another planet. On the way there, his vessel is clipped by an asteroid and he has to crash land. And as it turns out, he's crash landing on Earth again as it existed 65 million years ago. But here's another thing that throws a wrench into the works. The asteroid that hits his ship, well, a piece of the asteroid that hits his ship is from the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs. And so that's just another thing to sort of add to the tension here because the clock is ticking. He realizes once he crash lands on Earth that this impact that's going to happen is catastrophic in nature. His computer tells him that. And he's basically got, by the time he figures that out, 12 hours to get off the planet, or he's going to be sort of caught in the fiery wave of destruction that comes from that. So again, that's kind of my first sticking point here. So it's just weird that they decided to go with the plot as being the humans exactly as we know them, on Earth, are all over the stars. And maybe that's just sort of a scientific plot point that they want us to go with. Well, clearly it is a scientific plot point they want us to go with, but it was just weird. I kept coming back to that in my mind as this movie played out, that this is a really weird creative decision to go this route. I feel like they could have had sort of a futuristic science fiction movie developed around humans coming back to the past and having to contend with dinosaurs as they existed during that time period, maybe through time travel, who knows what it could have been. But that was just a weird thing to me. Like, if you're going to make it civilizations, and that's the term they use, civilizations have been exploring the stars for a long time, make it, an alien civilization, make them humanoid, but maybe not exactly humans. And that was another thing. I sort of assumed that somehow Adam Driver, some of his human cargo somehow would have survived the asteroid impact, and maybe there was sort of this prolonged explanation that sort of unravels about where the origins of humans on Earth actually came from. Maybe they came from another galaxy or another place in the Milky Way, another planet, whatever you want to call it. That's not what happens at all. And so, again, what I would say is that the plot here is super duper thin, like just enough to get Adam Driver and his human cargo in the mix with dinosaurs on Earth 65 million years ago. It probably didn't need much more than that, really, for most people. As a science fiction fan who likes just a little more explanation, I found it a little bit lacking in that regard. And as it turns out, all of his human cargo is dead except for one little girl. And so there's a lot of sort of parallels between his terminally ill daughter, who does ultimately pass away while he's on his trip, and him trying to protect this little girl and sort of reconcile sort of his, it's definitely not abandonment, but his absence in her passing. And so there's a lot of that sort of thing. And that's kind of a theme with a lot of different media we've got these days, right? I'm thinking of The Last of Us. I'm thinking of The Mandalorian. That's kind of a recurring thing, and it's present here as well. I will say, though, that they do a decently good job of showing us what the technology of these human beings from another planet is like. Obviously, it's not all that dissimilar from what we would imagine humans have in the future. It's very comparable in the way things are designed. But again, the world building here is very minimal. I mean, again, just enough to get us going with the plot. And so if you can get past all of that, right, if that's not the sort of thing that would bother you at all, you just want to see Adam Driver with a laser gun fighting dinosaurs, you're going to get that with this movie. The tension here is great, and in fact, I would say that this is better than the most recent Jurassic World movie, Jurassic World Dominion, I think it is. I did not like that movie at all. I thought that it really kind of fumbled what should have been a great reunion for that cast. This is, in my mind, much more tense in the way that they set things up. The dinosaurs actually feel really scary in this one. It's not a horror movie at all, but my 12-year-old son went with me to see it, and I can see him in his seat a couple of times sort of, kind of tensing up and cowering back a little bit. So it does a good job of that, and it's got a couple of dark moments in it for sure. And, from that regard, I think it is a movie that, kids can watch and probably be fine with. Would I say that it's scarier than the original Jurassic Park? Probably not. Maybe as scary. Maybe a couple of more kind of bloody moments included in it here and there. But overall, they do a good job in that regard. So from a dinosaur carnage perspective, yeah, like there's a lot of interesting stuff happening here. Again, this is really just a nitpick, but I kind of wish they would have sort of acknowledged, because it's an opportunity to do this with a big budget movie focused on dinosaurs that is not Jurassic Park, to give them feathers, right? There's a lot of science that suggests that a lot of the dinosaurs were in fact covered with feathers. It makes sense when you think about them evolving into birds. They didn't do that. They made them look like the movie dinosaurs that we're familiar with, maybe a little bit darker in sort of their tones and that sort of thing. But it felt like that was a little bit of a missed opportunity. But generally speaking, the dinosaur carnage that you get here is overall pretty solid. Weirdly, though, I think the CGI in this movie is okay. It's never amazing. It's never great. And quite honestly, I don't think that any dinosaur movie, any of the other Jurassic Parks, anything beyond that you see in something like King Kong, or even this movie, 65, has done dinosaurs justice and made them look realistic in the way that the first Jurassic Park film has. And I think, there's some great YouTube videos you can go out there and check out when it comes to the use of animatronics, blending that, minimally only where needed with CGI, the way lighting is used to try and obscure things a little bit. Here, it just looks like another CGI dinosaur fest. Again, they don't look terrible, but they don't look great either. I was expecting it to look maybe just a little bit more polished. At times you can see where it looks better in certain sequences than in others. But anyway, that was a little bit disappointing to me as well. The way the movie ends, too, is a little bit abrupt. I mean, you can sort of see where they're headed with this. Again, in my mind's eye, I had an idea for where this is probably all going to sort of play out, or how it was all going to play out. It didn't play out in that way. It was kind of the standard, everybody survives, gets off the Earth, and makes it to some kind of rendezvous point where they're going to get help. But it just is kind of an abrupt ending. Like, you see their shuttle sort of disappearing into space, and then the written and directed by credit sort of pops up. So I could tell in the audience, it wasn't a super packed theater or anything, but people were just sort of like, oh, I guess that's it, and kind of slowly started standing up. So I think they fumbled the ending just a little bit. I mean, there was good resolution to them sort of, completing the end of their journey, that sort of thing, but it just felt like there needed to be a little bit more there in the way that they wrap things up. So the ultimate question is, should you see this movie? I would say that in a movie theater, probably not. Honestly, I don't know that you're missing anything by not seeing it in a theater. It's the kind of thing that I think is going to be on HBO Max or somewhere like that, and it's totally fine watching it at home as sort of a Saturday afternoon matinee sort of thing. If you like dinosaurs, if you like science fiction, there is some stuff to enjoy here. I think they do a lot of things right. It's just not the home run that I wish it could have been, right? I mean, there's a lot of things they could have done with this, a lot of things they could have explored with this, or better explained with this. I think the minimalistic plot in some ways is good, but in some ways leaves me as a science fiction fan kind of wanting more, wanting a little bit more development. The dinosaurs that we get in this movie are fine. There's nothing fantastic about them. Again, they are scary, which I appreciate. They don't look amazing, But generally speaking, if you like dinosaur carnage, if you like science fiction that's a little bit hammy in nature, then you're probably going to enjoy what you get here, but it's not necessarily something that you have to see on the big screen. And if it counts for anything, I asked my 12-year-old what he would rate it out of 10, even though I don't really do number ratings when we left the theater, and he kind of, scratched his chin for a second and said, I think I'd give it a 7 out of 10. So he seemed to enjoy it, even though he had some of the same observations that I did. But anyway, if you've seen 65, let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. And as always, thanks so much for watching.